Skip Bayless versus Stephen A. Smith. All right. Thank you all for tuning in and welcome to The Great Take, a channel dedicated to bringing you fresh takes and fast breaks, and as always, finish strong. Now, for today's video, we're going to look at the falling out of two of sports media's most powerful voices, Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. How did these two go from former co-workers to competitors? Has their relationship officially turned from friends to foes? Let's do the science. Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless started working together at ESPN on July 23, 2012, with both having climbed the ranks of sports journalism to reach the top of their fields. This seemed like the perfect dynamic duo to take sports debate shows to the next level, and that's exactly what they did. Formerly known as Cold Pizza, First Take would soon become a household name for sports commentary, with Stephen A. Smith being the loud and boisterous counterpart to Skip Bayless, a man who could casually start a sports war at any given moment. The magic seemed to be in their uncanny ability to give polarizing takes on some of the biggest names in sports. That, mixed in with how strong both of their personalities could be, made this show must-watch TV. At its peak, First Take became the #1 rated sports show in the country. Stephen A. and Skip had the kind of voices that began to echo throughout all the sports media. Some of the topics where they were the loudest also happened to be the most sensitive. Stephen A. has some of the most famous clips in the world where he sounds off against topics like marijuana and racial discrimination, while Skip Bayless can make you hate someone like Tom Brady just for how over the top his praise can be. Or, in the case of LeBron James and Steph Curry, Skip could drive that hate train all by himself. Their take sparked controversies, but more than anything else, it boosted engagement. First Take became one of ESPN's most successful shows, and many regarded it as the best sports debate show in the game. But with all of that longevity and notoriety came turmoil, and this is where Max Kellerman enters the chat. After a long stint with ESPN, Skip Bayless would terminate his relationship with the company and sign a contract with Fox Sports, leaving a vacant seat on one of ESPN's top shows, and that was a big seat to fill. The man chosen for that job ended up being Max Kellerman, a former boxing analyst and the original host of the show Around the Horn. Max quickly became a fan favorite with his ability to go jab for jab with Stephen A., while also being the seemingly more down-to-earth co-host. When topics that centered around race would be discussed, it was often Max's takes that were more respected by a large number of viewers, some of whom didn't have a problem letting Stephen A. Smith know this directly. But what about Skip Bayless? Skip would sign a new deal with Fox Sports and started a new sports debate show for the network called Undisputed. Skip ultimately decided that the co-host who most deserved to sit in a chair next to him was Shannon Sharpe, former Hall of Fame NFL tight end. Shannon would quickly become a memeable fan favorite who brought life and character to the show, where Skip seemed to lack. While Skip and Shannon were hitting their stride and starting to dominate the sports debate field, Stephen A. and First Take seemed to be heading in the wrong direction. The chemistry between Max and Stephen A. just wasn't there, and oftentimes the moderator of the show, Molly, would have to reel the conversation in just so the viewing audience could attempt to follow along. Stephen A. constantly criticized Max for not being informed enough to have some of the strong opinions that he did, and Max would honestly just smugly act like the smartest dude on the set. And boy, did it grind Stephen A. Smith's gears whenever that proved to be true. It was no surprise that Stephen A. would eventually request for Max to no longer be a co-host on the show. While this dynamic duo had a rocky time together and an even rockier end, what happened to Skip and Shannon? Undisputed was one of the best rated shows on sports television, but the show started to have some friction from within. Longtime moderator Jenny Taft eventually left while on maternity leave and never came back to the show, even after re-signing with the network. Perhaps over issues with Skip Bayless in particular? At least it would seem that way in Taft and Shannon Sharp's strong support for each other even after both of their departures. That wasn't the only area where Skip and Shannon seemed to have opposing ideologies, and these differences started to spill over into the live recorded airtime. The tense moments and awkward silences were becoming more frequent. Shannon seemed to be growing increasingly more frustrated with Skip's childish debating antics at times, especially when Shannon was winning an argument and Skip had no real counter. In the end, I believe Skip's ego got the better of him and forced a very loyal Shannon Sharp out the door. Did Skip anticipate that Shannon's next move would be to sign with his ex-co-host, Stephen A. Smith? Because that's what happened. And what originally seemed to be a petty move, Skip's exes joined forces after Shannon Sharp signed a deal with ESPN to join First Take. However, Stephen A. would later go on the Joe Budden podcast, where he revealed that Shannon was indeed forced out of Undisputed, and Stephen A. wasn't going to miss the opportunity to work with him just because they both worked with Skip Bayless.
I'm telling you he did it. I'm telling you he was pushed out.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Well, I'm telling you, and it's fact. Now, they could deny it. He wouldn't. I can promise you that. He was pushed out.
Sticking with the retired NFL player formula, Skip Bayless would have former ESPN analyst Keyshawn Johnson and also Richard Sherman, former NFL defensive back, join him on Undisputed. The show also now has some random special guests, one of them being the greatest rapper alive, Lil Wayne, longtime friend of Skip Bayless and artist who wrote the show's opening song, Twice. Now we have ourselves a good old-fashioned ratings war between Undisputed and First Take. Both shows and superstar hosts have had to reshuffle the deck in hopes to recapture their audiences and prove who truly has the better show. So far, Stephen A. Smith is winning this fight in a landslide. First Take is averaging 4 times as many viewers as Undisputed. But we all know ratings aren't everything. So who do you think has the better show? Are you Team Skip, Stephen A., or Team They're Both Trash? Who's the better sports commentator? Who has the better resume? Why are neither of these shows as good as First Things First? Shout out to First Things First. Love them. Could Stephen A. and Skip reunite in the future? I mean, you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. I will be doing a lot more content because there's a lot going on and it can be hard to keep track. But don't worry, we got your back. Get me to 1,000 subscribers and stay tuned for a giveaway. Thanks for checking out The Great Take, and as always, finish strong.